Welcome to the Artist Society podcast. This is Tasneem Lohani, your host for the evening or morning or night or whenever you're listening to this episode. Today, we're in conversation with a very special artist, Imaad Majeed from Sri Lanka. We are going to chat about community building as a practice in life and in the arts. And he's going to tell us a bit about his ruminations over our sense of belonging in this very complicated global world that we live in today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Imaad. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I'm just decompressing a bit after managing to somehow get home just 2 minutes before the azan went off. And I was supposed to get on a train that would have comfortably brought me home 30 minutes before we intended to speak. The most I could give you is like a sense of what time the train was departing and what time it would arrive. But like, sadly, this isn't India, and we don't have train status services as such. So, there was supposed to be a train at 2:04 and a train at 2:40. And when I tried to get a ticket for 2:04, they said, "Yeah, it'll be half an hour late. Do you still want a ticket?" And I was like, I'd rather go in the early one." And the early one still ended up coming later than the second one.
I see.
And so at some point, I was like, fuck this train. And I got down like two towns away from home and just went to the tuk stand, the auto stand. And I was like, who can get me to my place the fastest? Who's going to move the fastest? And there's this one tuk, this blue tuk, which had like a little door also. So it was more secure as well. And he was like, go with this guy. And then I went with him. And I'm pretty sure we beat the train. And so thank you for your sabr, for your patience. And how are you today?
I am good. I've had a very relaxing cup of tea while I was waiting for you, so I'm very chilled out. And also, I'm happy, I guess, because all the background noise in my end has drowned out as, we are past Maghrib now.
Yeah.
So, interesting. I guess I would have, I'd take the idea of having a train status system available to us very for granted.
I mean, it's wild how much, like, even on the journey, I would notice, like, it come up in conversation so I can...
With other passengers?
So I can understand the Sinhala language and the Tamil language, which are two of the main languages here. And then now, of course, with like colonialism and also modernization, etc., people speak a bit of English. But on the train with locals, you're mostly hearing either Sinhala or Tamil. And I could hear people kind of speaking to each other about, where did you get on? How late was it there? Or it was this late for me. And then later, someone else chiming in, being like, no, now we've passed this station, so now it'll catch up. And in my head, I'm like, pretty sure the train has like a speed limit too. And like it would be...
No, actually, that's an actual thing. Like having traveled in a lot of trains, that does happen. Like for whatever reason, at some points, the train will slow down. And I mean, whenever you're on a train, I think most people are having conversations around like, when is it going to pick up? Will it make up the time it lost because of some kind of delay, or like waiting for the TT to go up and down to be like, hey, TT, what's been up? I mean, like, it's kind of like when you're in a train, it's like equivalent of, talking about the weather sort of thing. People are obsessed with when the train is going to reach.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the weather, like I just recently was involved in putting together a residency where we were bringing together, that nursery rhyme, London Bridge is falling down. Yeah. So this residency was artists who are diasporic, so from this island in some sense, and then artists who were born and like raised here and live and work here. And we called our project Weather Reports. And so part of like how we one of the ideas we had of how to kind of be in touch before we all came into the same place in Colombo was to just, I took on the task of trying to translate that question of how's the weather where you are.
Okay.
To like spoken Tamil and spoken Sinhala.
Okay.
Just as a way for each of us, because, some of us are traveling, some from different parts of the island, some are, in the midst of traveling in the region and then coming to Colombo. So like, I feel like it's such a banal thing. And especially when you have like relatives who are like NRI or diasporic or whatever the fuck Desi means. But it's like, it's such a banal phrase, but I feel like in the midst of where we've arrived at, the world we've been like birthed into, it's taking on like a renewed significance in the sense of like how unpredictable weather is becoming on an island like ours, and like literally the air quality is dropping over the past month and a half across the coast of this island, and it's just air from Delhi.
What you're saying? Air from Delhi has traveled to Sri Lanka.
Air from Delhi. If you look at the airflow currents over the 1.5 months,
are you serious?
It's seriously Delhi, and like coastal Sri Lanka typically has like AQI of like 20, 30 or something, right? And now it's going up to like 50, 60, which is like a bit absurd. I mean, of course, Delhi people will laugh at these numbers, but cough it up.
They have they are coughing. They are coughing a lot. I don't know how they've normalized this guy, but what really, it's traveling all the way to Sri Lanka. I mean, then it has to, because the air quality in Bangalore has been tanking as well. Like it's been really bad. Now it's kind of better. But also like one of the things I've noticed is that the tabubuya that's very popular in Bangalore, the pink cherry blossom as they call it, and like the whole city starts blooming around end of March. It started happening now, which is like mid-February.
Oh.
And it's been like 5 years that I've been in the city, and I kind of always have this memory of it starting like after mid-March and going up to end of March. And it's very strange. Like I'm just like, is this the right, like why am I seeing cherry blossoms everywhere?
Oh my god. That's wow.
But yeah, like coming back to your comment on Delhi winds coming to Sri Lanka, I think we had an interesting conversation when you were visiting Bangalore for the MAP conference. And I think in your presentation, you had mentioned how India likes to feel self-important as compared to like when it runs up against the rest of the countries that it's surrounded by. And
yeah, I remember this.
And I was like very stunned by that, because initially, like, the conversation in India is always about thinking about the colonizer and us, the victim, the colonized. And there isn't that much kind of, I think, criticality about how we present ourselves to smaller nations around us. And so I was, like, how can I say? I felt really kind of challenged by what you said, and in a good way, because I was like, okay, you know what, like, this person is coming all the way from Sri Lanka, and he has the courage to bring this up in this room full of intellectual art people. So it's great. Like, I mean, where else do you have this conversation if not here? So I think like that's how we really kind of started talking.
Yeah. I still hold on to the tote bag and even the pen that they gave with the tote bag. It's like, it was a really good black pen. Whoever's responsibility it was to pick the pen to give the attendees a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm still using it. It's great. Please send me some. But I still wear the tote bag, and like quite intentionally, because like for me, like one of the like foundational learnings for me from my faith that I was born into, but also living on this island that has all kinds of resonances when it comes to spirituality, from Buddhism to forms of Hinduism to animist beliefs amongst the indigenous and such. For me, beyond like five timing and like, you know, five pillars and all of that, to me, it's like niya or niyat, intention, right? Doing things with intentionality. And I feel like the human condition is such that like we're so fallible in the sense of like how well do we even know or are aware sometimes of our intentions when we're doing things, when we're moving through navigating and such. And like, so the map, what I really loved about that particular conference was that sense of like the focus on empathy and its role when you are institution building. Because in a sense, like I would say I guess it's been about 10 years of me navigating the art world at all. And I feel sometimes it's like time travel, getting opportunities to go, you know, it used to be Europe before, now it's going to be the Middle East, like we're seeing. And then us South Asians are like trying to be relevant or whatever. But to me, even spending time in India, right? Like I would spend 3-4 months of the year because I was seeing someone from there. And in that time, if I had, you know, places to go speak and stuff, I would go do that. And the topic of institution building is so fascinating because from the island perspective, right? So here, with those who I sort of work with, we tend to prefer the term Lanka or Ilankai. In Tamil, Ilankai or Lanka, as opposed to Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka itself has this whole other political history we can loop back to later. But in Lanka or in Ilankai, we hardly have institutions in the first place when it comes to the art world, right? There's like a few things that have been around for a long time, but in terms of like the sheer amount of work and capital and like processes you have to go through to even get something off the ground, let alone like sustain it, it feels like a conversation that's so far ahead in a way, right? And then at the same time, this whole like thing of like decoloniality that's become, you know, the kind of main how do we say lens, let's say, that quite a bit of the intellectual art world seems to be employing. I mean, this conversation has been going on since the 40s, right? And yet you know, at different points it's about post-coloniality and now it's decoloniality. And I feel like sometimes maybe to start with, what we need is just relationality. Like the relational differences or similarities, or not even
like
in any binary
relationality
sense.
with like other people or like countries,
Just,
or what do you mean?
Now if we go back to the example of the residency, right? Bringing together homeland, let's say, experiences and diaspora experiences. There is this national identity, and of course, with our political history and such, and conflict and all that it has led to, there are relational differences, right? In terms of how one becomes diaspora.
Right.
There's aspects of class in terms of who could afford to go, right?
Yeah.
There's also aspects of circumstance in the sense of who had no other way than to become, or not even to become, or to be made a refugee, to be made to seek asylum in a sense. And so this relationality is not just in an interpersonal sense, but in the sense of even between this island and the subcontinent, the sense of how far ahead the Indian art scenes are, whether we look at little pockets in Bangalore or mushroomings in outside of, around Goa and post-COVID and stuff. There's like certain aspects that like I can't necessarily go back, come back to the island and be like, yeah, we're going to do this because I saw it happen there. It's totally going to work here, It's like there's so many other like contextual stuff that's happening. And I feel like,
of course,
yes, we should always contend with the colonial lens and how much that has like shaped how, like, it's literally shaped how we see ourselves before we even see someone else, right?
Yeah.
From like the way that a census sets out ethnicity and identity to the ways in which, you all of course have this, at least constitutionally, a sort of secularism, whereas the Sri comes into Sri Lanka because we get a constitution in the 70s that basically says that Buddhism is to be enshrined, like the foremost place, and becomes then the duty of the state to uphold that, right? And for y'all, despite the fact that the sort of father of the constitution in some sense, or chief contributor, Baba Saheb himself, like sought out a faith for the oppressed and somehow comes to Buddhism, right? And we see the emergence in 56, 59. Yeah, in that time of Navayana Buddhism as well. So it's fascinating to me what and all is happening there. But at the same time, like even now, just a few days ago, there was a massive congregation of Buddhist monks here who are calling for this enshrining, right?
Okay.
Because so they feel that our present regime, which is post quote unquote revolution, the Aragalia, the struggle, they are saying this new regime that's come in, who the people voted for, that they are too secular.
Oh wow.
Because the current regime is coming from an old Marxist party and all of that. And so now we have this thing, and here, like, when we speak of colonialism, it doesn't necessarily stop with like the Dutch, the Portuguese, the Dutch, and then the English. We have our own. Some would argue that it's a form of settler colonialism that has been happening alongside the nation building project in order for it to work. Some would use different terms, and I don't really want to get so much into the semantics of it, but like, here I feel like it's more useful. So with the collective that I'm one part of, we
this is
like
the packet.
We like the term hyper local in the sense of beyond saying, yes, I'm a local, I live in Colombo or whatever. Technically, I live in the outskirts. But
In a place called Kalapura, you mentioned.
Yeah, I live right around
Is the
Kalapura.
artist's colony.
It's like Puram. Well, that was the vision. Now, if you go, you'll see a nice board that's like all glowy and like shiny, and there'll be an advertisement for like some guru shishya type,
Oh gosh.
but Sinhala version of that.
Mm.
I could write a whole thesis about like Saralagi and cultural hegemony, the ways in which music also has this colonial purport here.
And you have started the performance platform called KACHA KACHA 10 years ago. And this is in Colombo. You started doing this?
Yes, it started in a place called Slave Island. Previous colonizers literally brought slaves through there and kept them there. But you can, less pejoratively, you can call it Kompanvidya.
Okay.
So etymologically, some people had thought that it meant like company, like the Vidya, the street with the companies, because it did have a fair bit of mercantile activity. But in actuality, there's a lot of Malay community there. So, Malay Muslim community, and so it's very likely that it's like compound, that becomes kompan. So that idea of the compound in the sense of in the Javanese sort of thing, it's quite beautiful. And yeah, so there was some argue that it was anywhere between 100 to 140 years, possibly even older building, built in the British Raj era. And it's beautiful. It's right by the train station. You see the train track in front.
And what is this building called?
It was called the Castle Hotel.
And it was a hotel?
No, it was initially called HW Cave Printing Press.
Okay.
And it was a little printing press, and eventually it becomes like this little lodge, travelers inn type thing with like a bar and like rooms upstairs and stuff. And then at some point, in the post-colonial or modernist in that part, it kind of pejorates, and at one point it remains to be a bar, but at a certain point apparently it was so neglected that there was sex work happening.
Oh wow. Okay.
Upstairs in the rooms and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, and then gambling kind of, low key, kind of like playing cards and this and that would happen. So what's interesting about these working class bars? Yeah.
No, go on. I was just asking why you were interested in this space, but I guess that's what you're about to say.
I mean, it was a commission where I had been since 2014. I'd come back from journalism school. I dropped out of ACJ and I had gotten the scholarship for like this Imaad Majeed Singh, whoever that is.
Okay.
I feel like I've looked him up at some point, but clearly, for whatever reason, I don't remember who that guy is. But whatever. I mean, it brings like people from the SARC region to come and like take it up. But I dropped out of journalism school. I was pretty disillusioned with that industry, and I was just writing differently, and like I had gotten back into hip hop, which is something I was into as a preteen.
Okay.
And yeah, by this point I was like 23 or so, and I was just doing these DIY kind of gigs in a place called Mount Lavinia, which is also quite suburban, but it's a beautiful place, beach basically. And yeah, there was an art teacher who happened to be running a little gallery / cafe situation.
Okay.
And somehow I got connected into that, and they had like literally 2 speakers, a tiny little 4-channel mixer thing, 2 microphones. That's it.
Okay.
and ambient just lighting was just whatever they already had for the cafe. We never got lights or anything. So I would do these things, and I'd still manage to get people to come from like central Colombo all the way like 10 kilometers south from where they were.
Okay.
Sometimes maybe 12, 15.
And was this quite a rare thing for such DIY gigs to happen in Colombo?
In 2014, I mean, I grew up like sneaking out of home or like, you know, collecting pocket money for like weeks. We used to get 100 rupees back in like the 2000s, mid 2000s for a week. And that's Sri Lankan rupees. Barely anything. And we would like save that up and stuff. And and go and have to jump the big gate back in. Back when I started going, it was just with the intensification of the war. And it's really interesting in hindsight how like the underground scene then was about heavy music, like grungy and like metal, and like even this new form of metal that's particular to this island. Okay. Just like in hindsight, it's so fascinating to me how that was kind of the sound in Colombo in terms of an underground. Electronic music only really becomes a thing here after the quote-unquote end of the war. Okay. Which is really fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah, but back then, like people, and even with the electronic stuff, people just would put in their own money from whatever they were earning and put on shows. And I remember when you would hang out afterwards, at the end, like, the conversation would always, someone would ask, you know, did you break even?
Right.
And all the time it was no. Everyone was going at a loss. It was very rare for someone to break even, right?
Right.
So it was important for me from very early on that, like, I need to make sure that I can pay artists. Because back then, no one was even getting paid. So with this DIY stuff, the tickets were like 300 rupees back in 2014. And wasn't a big organizing team. It was me, and then later a friend helped out. And
and when you were doing it at the gallery, was it was it named KACHA KACHA back then, or did you formalize it later on?
There were all kinds of, like, every gig was a different thing. One was called Anang Manang. There's another one called, which is another onomatopoeia. And then, KACHA KACHA is an onomatopoeia, but Anang Manang is sort of this colloquialism slang for like a mixed bag. So like this idea of having a show where you hear hip hop and then a singer-songwriter and then a poet wasn't so much a thing, and it's something that I kind of had tested out. I would say at Charcoal Gallery, and then this curator at the time, Radhika Hettiarachie, has a beautiful oral history project called Her Story. And other work that she does, just amazing. So she had approached me and a co-conspirator, Dylan Prince, who I was so inspired by because his journey of returning to his motherland was so Dylan came from like a DIY scene in different parts of so-called Australia, and like would cycle around and like use minimal gear and like, you know, be really part of collectivity and things like that. And basically volunteered on like little boats that would travel towards the island, and like was on one boat that went to like Thailand or something, and then joined another boat from Thailand to the island. And basically would volunteer to help on the vessel and to also entertain them with a looper pedal and a microphone and beatboxing and just improvising, and then recorded or had all that stuff and arrived on the island and put up a story being like, hey, just landed, or not even landed, just like,
reached.
Just reached, and like any producer around hit me up, and I wasn't even a producer back then. I just hit them up and was like, hey, I'm doing these shows. If you want to do you want to try out doing a show here and whatnot. And yeah, it ended up being the sort of debut performance on the island. And interestingly enough, 10 years later, Dylan returns again after having spent 2014 to 17 here, in time for like our 10-year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
With KACHA KACHA. So Radhika, the curator, asked Dylan to moderate or be part of a conversation with around challenges in the performing arts, which included a rapper, someone in theater, and then as such. And so that would kind of be the exploration. And it would happen also in Kompanvidya at the Masonic Lodge.
Okay.
And then the attendees would then get this sort of guided walk to the hotel with the curator, right? And by then the show is just about to start and the regulars are already there, and like slowly kind of bring them into the space. I did not think I was capable of pulling off any kind of show in a working class bar, which are on this island and also in India, right? Quite male-dominated spaces.
I was going to ask, because like, why did you kind of choose to do it at this working class bar? Because like, it is challenging. Like, another thing that also I had a question in mind was that like, there is something like this happening in Bangalore, I've been told by a friend. So I don't know if you know ISRO from Bangalore. Yashas does all these cool gigs under ISRO, and I think they have started doing some gigs at one of these working class bars. And so now what has happened is a lot of art crowd has started going into the space. And what my friend said was that, it used to be a shady bar with all these old drunk men, but now that we're doing these gigs, they have moved to another bar. And so like now it's just art people who hang out there. And so like when you were, saying that you have created this space and it's important for you to have like working class people continuing to come to this space, like how did you make that happen? Like, was there a challenge in making that happen, or was it different?
I mean, the first one, I just like hydrated myself with beer because I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen, but like we prepped, right? So the curator came with me when we spoke to the manager, introduced me to the manager. I had a conversation with the manager, and the thing is, up until that point, I wanted to do, even in 2015, a trilingual event, right? But I would go to these different venues and like closer to Colombo, so you have a bit more people and not just whoever feels like they can come to Mount Lavinia. But a lot of these venues that had all the facilities, right? Like great bathrooms. I know that's important. Good bathrooms, all of that, and like parking, but also like air conditioning, smoking area, and like bar service, or like, food as well. And they would be like, sorry, English only, right? And a lot of places, they even have like a list of songs that they've approved. And so even when they hire musicians, the musician has to like vet songs with them and this and that. Sucks. So many. That could be a whole book about like this particular thing.
What
And
are all
on
the
top of
songs
that-
that are approved?
Exactly,
the list
right?
of the songs is the book.
Yeah. It's caught in a loop also. It's sometimes the same songs for like 5 years, 10 years. Like you go to a club in this town and it's like a time capsule to like all the people who are cancelled now. Like, yeah, you'll hear like R. Kelly Ignition sometimes. It's like a bit, I don't really go to the clubs here. Anyway, these venues, right, who had sound systems as well, right? You wouldn't even need to rent that. So essentially, like, so much covered. They had these particular things about language, right? Nowadays, the younger generation, there's this demand for like Tamil spaces, and like, so there are certain bars now that have like monthly Tamil night, you know, and things are really beginning to, the changes are showing now, which is fascinating to me, because before, like, Tamil community sort of activities and stuff would be more like actually underground, in the sense of like it's a community where insularity is necessity, right? It's survival. People will use, nowadays we use this word resilience a lot, but that term in itself can be kind of patronizing in a sense, no? To have this expectation to be resilient. So it's interesting over the 10 years to kind of see the ways in which it has changed the attitudes of venues, because they're starting to see that, like, hey, we can actually run our business doing these different things. So, and
but
yet
what
still,
about the people coming to these spaces?
Yeah.
Like how is like from the first event you did to, like, I don't know, whichever number of, like, how many events you've done in 10 years, over 10 years, like, do you have the same people coming back again and again? And especially, like, I'm curious to know, like, the initial people that used to frequent that bar, like the frequent goers, do they still come to these events?
Yeah. So when we started out, the event would happen every 4 months, right?
Okay.
So 1 month of doing research and like talking to other musicians, getting a sense of what's happening in the different languages. And then once that's done, basically reaching out to artists and identifying at least one song from them, or one poem, or one, and ask them, hey, if I give you 2 months, do you think you could work on a 20-minute set just with this in it at the core of it? And that kind of curation, more of a soft curation, in the sense of like, not being like, this is my theme, what do you have to fit this, and go with that, but rather listening and getting a sense of, okay, these are the emergent themes. This is these are the different conversations happening. Let's bring it together. So then they have 2 months, right, to prepare, and then start announcing the event. And back then, like even now, inward transactions here kind of difficult. So using any kind of crowdfunding app or website back in the day wasn't. There was no like straightforward way to do that. So I would just put up a Facebook like post and be like, crowdfunding, need this much to pay artists, cover costs, entrance will be free, right? All of our events are always, we have never charged a ticket and never will. So that helps, right? The keeping that thing of free entry helps, because now every 4 months was the thing, and then we did until 2017. I think it was 3 venues, so it would have been 5 or 6 events, 7 events, yeah. And then the first bar, Castle Hotel, actually the main impetus actually to do it was that there was a massive displacement happening because of Tata, as in Ratan Tata.
Yeah.
Basically taking up all of this land, basically displacing the Malay community and also all the others, like Sinhalese people, Tamil people, living there in order to like reallocate. So there was a larger conversation that needed to be had about, these buildings are so old, we should be considering them part of our heritage and like UNESCO site or something,
Yeah.
And so a large part of the impetus at the beginning was to bring people to that place to sort of see, not just the bar, just what we Sinhalese would say vatapita, what's around you. And in some sense, maybe to inspire something, people to raise their voices around it. And I mean, the challenge is that if it had remained every 4 months, and if it had remained in one venue, like gentrification will happen even if it's in 4 months, right?
Yeah.
So that is like a further violence, right? So the first venue, Castle Hotel, we like historians wrote about it, like there were articles in the paper, there were petitions, all of that. Couldn't save it. Belongs to Tata now. Actually, after the second event, I get a call from the manager and he's like, the staff want you to throw the farewell. And this date in February is our last day when we hand over the key. So the night before that, can you do the thing? And I was like, oh, it's a Sunday. And we always do it on Sundays because that's their lowest footfall day. So we would never do a Kacha Kacha on a Friday or a busy night for them because then it's their time, it's their space. So we go when it's, still the weekend, but like,
Yeah.
So it was in some sense fortunate that, and that night there were so many people, like people from the neighborhood, one older man from the neighborhood, regular of the bar, came, danced, sang, went back home, came back in a nightie, like a nightie gown.
Wow.
And continued to like just be a presence in the space on its very last night.
Amazing.
There might have been, who knows, like, there is some beautiful, someone has a photo somewhere of like the staircase and he was just sort of like chilling there and like taking in the overall vibe of it.
Yeah.
This is like, there's video documentation of me visiting after Tata started tearing it down. So now they have like, they basically tore down like the bathrooms and the work area, right? The bar area. So where the labor actually happens, and kept like the front half, which is,
Just
seating,
the facade.
and then upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the facade and then that first half of the building, where the guests actually sit and stuff. And it's still not being used. There's like literally, and they painted it white also now, and it had this beautiful ochre, orangish color with some green, and like now it's just like, it's so strange and it's so sad. But yeah, in 2017, I had to take a hiatus because I was just like too many projects and like working a 9 to 5 at the same time and just kind of burnt out. And after that, it only happened like 2 years later, and it's been every 2 years for a bit. And I feel like the second venue also was great, but had to shut down. Now it's opened again under new people.
So after this space, after this bar shut down, you went to another one? Where did you move Kacha Kacha to?
So we went from Kompan Vidya to Peta. So Peta is like marketplace, like a huge marketplace, very mercantile. It's right by the harbor as well. And so that venue was right opposite the Ceylon Tobacco Company.
Okay.
Like their situation, and the harbor lights would be the lighting for the rooftop if you went up to the rooftop. So sometimes we'd have smaller things on the rooftop, and then all of these working class bars tend to already have a form of segregation where if they're vertical, one floor will be for like the quieter stuff, and then another floor for like the music that's playing or the match that's on or whatever it is.
Right.
So yeah, regulars definitely come back. They look forward to it, but more than anything, it's the staff. Like they enjoy it so much because it becomes like something to look forward to with the work that they do. Particularly with the third venue that we've been working with. This venue has survived in some sense. But they've invested without me saying anything in clean bathrooms now.
Okay.
There's 2 separate bathrooms situation, and yeah, it's like great. And because before I would like pay them separately just to make sure that at least on the day of the event we sanitize the bathrooms that they did have. So like we would use Pine-Sol and this and that, and like do that, and it would be like what Sinhalese call a Shramadana, like almost like some kind of ritual cleansing of the space before the thing happens.
Okay.
But there were a lot of like growing pains, like the first few ones at Castle, like women and femme people experiencing a different kind of harassment is the word, in the sense of like people from different classes of society, right? Because it's also a social mixing situation that's happening. So that was something that had to involve like having a security person, which we always had, but like them being in conversation with the bar staff and like getting that sense of it. And like over the years though, I've realized how much it's a community effort. Like
I was
people
going to
coming
say,
to the event.
Yeah, because I think like what you're doing in a sense is community building, right? I think like with your collective, the packet, the exhibitions you're curating, and especially with KACHA KACHA, it's like it's a community effort, but it's also bringing together all classes of people from society, and it's kind of it is very hard to do because like often the presence of one class will make the other class feel alien, and they will one will stay and one will leave, sort of a thing. Like, I mean, you take like someone like Marina Abramovic, who probably started performing, in these very avant-garde kind of gallery spaces with very interesting audiences, to like now for her to come to Kochi and it to be like this like grand event now that is extremely elite, because a lot of the information was gate kept as to when she is coming, right? Like when is that event happening, like you get to know like 1 or 2 days before, if you're like not connected to the kind of internal art world systems. And so like you don't have enough time to like drop everything and fly to go see her or whatever, right? And then all the people that did go kind of were, like the patrons or the people who were like, I am here to see Marina, like, or I don't know, like anyone who felt very self-important made sure they got all the kind of first seats to be able to see her live. And most of the other people in that 2,000 seating crammed room were just complaining about the fact that they could have watched it on TV because they were anyway watching it on a screen, because they couldn't see her because they were so far back.
Yeah. This reminds me of a literature festival here that's like inspired by Jagpur, but somehow worse. But yeah. They also do this thing of like, I mean, they announce it though in time, but they ticket it, and like that was like, I don't know, I guess considered okay and normal and like common sense or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I don't know I don't know what the need is to like treat things as commodities or treat things as like, now I guess the word is experience. The experiential, fuck it. Like, but I mean, the art world, it like thrives on gatekeeping, no?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's more or less the class divide.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
it's like somehow there are, I mean, it's a whole other conversation, but like the gatekeeping is happening because there is a sense of elitism that only I should have exclusive access to this and you shouldn't. It's also the reason why we, like, even artists don't help each other out, because they're like, I have access to this exclusive thing, a knowledge, idea, party, gallery, gallerist person, and I
Yeah.
will not give it to anyone else. But like that's the challenging thing, like to democratize the art space, to like have all these people come in, that like to make people outside the quote unquote art world feel like they can also enter these spaces and enjoy art and also have claim over art experiences. So like for example, I curate some exhibitions at Shanti Road from time to time, and like there is a certain crowd that goes to Shanti Road, and they have developed their own community of people, neighbors and things that drop by and things like that, and it's a very kind of in that sense inclusive space. I would say one of the least intimidating art spaces in India. Yet like now, when I go to that space, for me, like as a young person, my community is different, and like the kind of people that I think that need to be in the space are like people my age. And what are those people doing? Like, why are they not in this space? Right? So one of the things that I've seen people ask me a lot when I invite them to these exhibitions is that, like, the non-art people, they'll be like, oh, so like, what is the ticket? And honestly, there's never a ticket. So I was like, okay, maybe there should be a ticket for them to feel like a thing that they are going to. Because, like, you don't go to a theater play and say, like, I want to see this play for free. Or you don't generally go to a music gig. Of course, to KACHA KACHA, you will go for free. But you don't expect that. Like in Bangalore, you don't expect that, right? So I'm like, okay, let's do the ticket thing. And it was a struggle because like everyone in the art space told me like, terrible idea, don't do it. Nobody wants to talk about money, nobody wants to pay. And I was like, no, I think that we need different audiences in the art spaces and like let people come. So like we advertise it. I mean, it was like a part of something that Art forwarded in Calcutta, and it was their idea, and I think it was great. Like they advertise it on Paytm Insider, and they put up the tickets there. And like I think like on the day of the exhibition, like Suresh came to me and he said like, who are all these people? I've never seen them. Because you don't expect like that many new faces at Shanti Road.
Yeah.
So like, and again, like in different contexts and different situations, there are different strategies one must use to bring in different kinds of people.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting that we've come to this, because was an artist from India who I met when I was in Munich for a theater festival. And like the curator that was working with our particular program seemed to be working with like one-person shows kind of thing. And so those were the only ones I went to. And yeah, I generally tend to just focus on getting my work done or the collective work done, and like generally don't necessarily set an intention to network per se. It's like the people you meet along the way as you're doing the work kind of thing. Trying to remember the artist name properly. This Pankaj. Sometimes you only remember people's Instagram handles also, which is kind of strange.
This is a new thing. No, this is the new normal.
So anyway, the show was about paper planes, and it's this interesting genre of like South Asian art, contemporary, of like the guilt trap, which is where like it's like a performance, and like it actually at MAP there was that performance, right? That artist where it was like a day in the life or something, and you could see the working table and then application writing process at one point.
A day in the life of the artist.
That one, she says no at some point, colonial guilt. And for me, that term encapsulated so much of how I've seen artists have to navigate when we come from South Asian experiences, particularly situated regionally, right? But also like becoming diasporic and like being made diasporic in a sense. And yeah, basically, I don't want to like spoil the show. If it's on, you should, if you're listening to this, and there's a show with paper planes by a guy called Pankaj. Check it out. But this idea of like how, you know, you want to navigate the art world, and then you're pulled by these like flows of like trends and capital, obviously, and all of this stuff. But you might just be in it because you believe in the particular work that you're doing. Right? And this is one of the only structures through which you can do something, right? Like your circumstances are such regionally that, like, you know, working in the creative industry, advertising. Journalism school made me hate advertising, but
I don't know. Instagram made me hate advertising.
Yeah. Oh my god. What are these ads even nowadays? But anyway, look, I have sticks now, mahogany, because I made this artwork based on a Eastern Muslim tradition that you also find actually in parts of South India. We call it Polladi. And basically, it's a ritual dance sort of thing that's done and gendered though. So it's men who partake in this. There'll be someone singing and maybe playing drum, mostly just singing. Often nowadays an older person, and then these young men will like weave through the space while if I have one of these sticks in my right hand, it has to go and knock on what someone else is sending out, often with their right hand or left hand or however, and then it weaves around, and with both hands you're sort of moving through and weaving through, and like you're producing the percussion for the singing, right?
And when is this done? This dance is done?
So nowadays these kinds of things have become more so like traditions that aren't being taken up as much.
And was that part of you wanting to do Kacha Kacha because you are very inspired by the trilingual state in your where you inhabit, right? Like there are all these languages that you are interested in.
It's beyond trilingual. For me, I would spell out my approach over so many years as TRY lingual.
Okay.
Because I mean, there's Bahasa Melayu, and which is something I should be learning. Because I literally, like, when I look at my ancestry, like, we've come through, you know, Javanese traders most likely, and like perhaps Yemeni, and like
Okay.
through other research, I found other tracers and things, but then we're only living there because we would have married into Mukur caste Tamil people. We share clan names, what's called the Kudi system. The rule is you belong to your mother's Kudi, and you cannot marry someone from your own Kudi, from your own clan.
Okay.
So like very fascinating, but anyway, that's a tangent. Coming back to languages. So for me, being trilingual is like the first steps of really it was also coming at a point where I was really even my poetry, which is my primary practice, poems becoming a bit less about my inner turmoil and inner world, and a bit more so about what's around me, what I'm hearing, like conversations I'm part of, whether it's, with family, extended family, or in our ancestral hometown, or, just working as a journalist for a long time as well.
Yeah.
I was in the media in some sense for the better part of 10 years, give or take some hiatuses.
Yeah.
But I feel like in some sense I've parlayed some of that into these projects of mine, like KACHA KACHA. I've written bios for quite a lot of artists because when we featured them quite for a few people, it was like debut performances or like first time in Colombo. People have come from different parts of the island, from like Trincomalee to like Katakalo to even Anuradhapura and like Nuwara, and we've had different dialects as well, because there's this Tamil rapper. I don't know if I'll ever meet him in person, or if we would be able to get him to play KACHA KACHA, but ADK has a TikTok where basically, so he's based, I think now somewhere in Malaysia or Indonesia or something, but pretty from the island, pretty popular rapper. He has a TikTok where he basically goes through like 7, 8 different dialects of Tamil from the island, as well as a few that you hear that are like South Indian, right? And in it, it's just the same sort of message. It's fascinating to me over the years. Like, it would be really cool to like reach out to the artists and extend it to this. I mean, these are things for me to have conversations with our team, because we have a team now. We did an open call for our 10-year anniversary.
Wonderful.
And there was like a whole thing. And so now we have all of that. And our anniversary event was kind of a way to introduce the team to what we do, even though it followed a slightly different format. Yeah.
So you really like bootstrap this and now you have a team. That's amazing. And do you perform? You also have performed at these KACHA KACHA events, right? Your own poetry?
Very, very rarely. I rarely ever program myself into things. And yeah, the first KACHA KACHA I wasn't programmed. I think I've only maybe 2 or 3 times in like 10 events.
But your poetry is also really looking at language, right? Like, I think your background as a journalist and then you creating this kind of performance platform and then going to poetry, I think a kind of need to communicate, a need to use language in some senses is a kind of thread I see throughout all of your kind of practice. I was looking at one poetry film you sent me, Ambient State Terror. And actually, I have really I have really never seen poetry as a film in the sense that you have made it. I think you did it as like Instagram stories and then collaged them into a video. And there's also like a clip of like your street view from Google Maps as well. And I thought it was a really like clever way to kind of bring in poetry and also like make it visually and also linguistically accessible to the person who's viewing it. Tell me more about your poetry.
So there's also a sequel to Ambient State Terror.
I really resonated with what you say in the poem about violence not being direct at different points in time and but still being present, because like when you say it's present in your environment in the form of a Buddhist shrine at the end of your street. I mean, like where I live in South Bangalore, like there are parts of South Bangalore that are so very right wing and pro the current government, that there would be streets that are kind of flooded with orange flags showing support for the government and some kind of inflated vision of what the country must be like. And so there would be streets where like when you look up, you can't see the sky, you can only see orange. Because it's just like orange, 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 orange flags, like just like crisscrossed across the entire street. And that like, especially during like elections, that's actually very like frightening. Like almost like, do I really like want to go in this area, or should I like kind of skip this area? Because it's not everywhere also. There are pockets in the city where you see this.
Orange Bagua. Have you seen Said Ali Sarwar Jaffrey's work?
No.
Which is part of our show Holy Flux for when was it? 2023, I think, December in Goa. Said Ali grew up in Faizabad and so remembers 2014 and remembers like how that color sort of came in. People sort of painting their walls and being encouraged to do so and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was what also moved me when we were curating collectively. Like for me, it was how I don't know, right? It's this. I don't know enough. I feel like India to me, like it's hard to conceive sometimes for me, India as a nation in the sense of how I can understand a nation through the island that I'm from, that I've spent most of my time on. In the sense of like already with less number of like districts, provinces and such, we contend with so much and it's difficult, and there's so much more that needs to change and needs to happen. It's fascinating to me how this continent sized thing is like, utterly fascinating. But
yeah.
So my poetry, I guess, how do I say? I feel like nowadays poems are less on the page. Often I'm like maybe in between spaces, like passing through, and like something of a poem is forming just from like whatever is happening, and I just sort of like go through it in my mind quietly without even like using my tongue or like my mouth or anything, like not even whisper it, just like see through in some sense, or feel through it and just let it go, and that's been very helpful, because for me, I feel like I had the capacity to be like really prolific and like constantly be putting stuff up. But like, I mean, I started my Instagram account just to post poetry. It was like when being an Insta poet was the thing. And I was like, fuck it, I'll try this. And it was at a point at which I was like, okay, the only way you're gonna like make it in the sense of survive and like be around was you have to pare down to just this one discipline and just go with that. And so it's only much later, few years later, that like I started doing music again, or like
so is the music
KACHA KACHA again.
Is the music in the Ambient State Terror film also by you? Is it you sing?
Ooh. That's a very fascinating song. It's by Sunil Shanta.
Okay.
And it would come under the music that I was describing, Saralagi, in some sense.
Okay.
So these are like musicians who were taking some inspiration from the Ragadari. And Sunil Shanta is interesting because he's bringing a folkloric kind of, basically this particular song that I'm sampling here, and it's choppy and whatnot because it's literally 60-second Instagram things, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever the limitation was,
Yeah.
it's little cuts. So it's this song, gung 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 gung. The whole idea of it for him was just one note, the whole song, just stay on the same note kind of thing. So it just keeps going that gum 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 gum. And he even says hemi hitter and then vata pitta, which I was saying before is what's around, right?
About the surroundings.
So, yeah, and it's talking about bees.
About
it's
bees.
It's actually, yeah,
also
and bees have colonies. yeah, and bees have colonies. But no, anyway, that wasn't the crux of the work.
But yeah, I think these are all the layers.
Layers. There's literally just around here, someone started a salon called Aura Salon or something.
Yeah, I think right now one of the most popular names is Aurora.
Like regionally or like
I don't know,
internationally?
Just internationally. But also like it's all like it's very kind of mixed, right? At this point, like there are all these people living in the West, Indians living in the West, who want the names of the kids to sound like partly Indian, but like a little bit Western. And then the Indians look at that living here and they're like, oh, that's an interesting name, sounds Indian, but like, you know.
Again, intentionality, but like the example you were giving is interesting in the sense of like, it's like the name's adaptability between like place, and like that sense of perhaps having experienced or seeing others experience the ways in which, like, you know how you get an email and like literally your name is in your email address spelled out, and someone else has already in the email thread spelled it out correctly somewhere. And often at the beginning, people fuck up your name, right? They like butcher it and like transposition errors and like all these things. I feel like there is something beautiful about being intentional, at least, like regardless of how this thing, the eventual name ends up being and sounding. But I mean, I appreciate if it's coming from this thing of like, how do we make things a little easier for this child? You know, I feel like, but
yeah, it's probably that I think most often, I mean, in the Western context, it's is probably most often that. But I think that's also like there is always a mix of like wanting to sound a bit Western, to also be taken seriously, to be treated equally. We very easily take up an American or a British accent, be there for like more than a month, or um, have you done that
In school, my mother has reminded me. I was totally oblivious to this. I do not remember it this way as it being a thing. But my mother was like, yeah, 1 year, there was a period where your school decided to get these foreign teachers and you had a British accent.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But it's true. Like, we did have these, like, Welsh and, like,
interesting.
British
I mean,
Scottish,
it's so, like, ingrained,
teachers.
right? Like, imagine that, like, I guess you don't, like, it's kind of like growing up. Like, I remember I used to hate India. I had no reason. Honestly, I had no reason. I was just like, India is bekar. Like, honestly, I had no reason. Like, if somebody asked me why I hated India, I probably couldn't articulate it. But I had this vision in my mind that the best place in the world is London. And that's where I want to be. I don't know where this came from. Okay. And there was like, I remember I was in a Hindi class and I was very friendly with my teacher. So I told her, I hate India. And she was like, that's so terrible. How can you hate your Matrabhumi? And like, how can blah, blah, blah. So she was like, I'm giving you a homework. You have to write an essay on how much you love India. And I'm just like, but I don't. So what am I going to write? And then, funnily enough, I ended up going to London to do my master's. And that's when I realized how much I hated the British. And I literally in that process fell in love with India.
Wow.
I know it's
still a better love story than Twilight.
I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's fascinating, no? Like the journeys.
Yeah, I think like I always blame this kind of thing on the fact that I'm I claim that I'm pretty sure there's somebody in my ancestry who was British, which will have this love for Britain that I cannot explain. But I really think it's some kind of conditioning that is so deep rooted that it's like I don't even know how to understand it. But so I would like to, end our conversation today by asking you to maybe read one of your poems.
So this one is you can get it now. It's available. It's from Compound Press from Ontario.
What is the name of the book?
New Zealand. Minarets. It's a series. It's it's like a poetry journal.
Okay.
And this is number 15 called Minaret, and the series called Minarets. And this one was edited by Nirvana Haldar. And I'm just gonna. So it says November 2025. This one remains to be an ode for those who cannot sleep, for those who can and cannot grieve, and for those that live in interrupted durée. And that's the beginning of the editor's note. And yeah, it's beautiful. Like, I've been reading Shivangi Mariam Raj on the unhumaning of Muslims in India and like critical essays in like Funambulist. And when I tend to get books, I usually get secondhand books, and I'm really fascinated by how when you sort of like let them kind of open out where they open to. I guess it would come under like bibliomancy or whatever, but even outside of like sense of magic, this idea of the memory of the spine is fascinating to me. So like with any book, I'm always like, I don't know, it's kind of sus when people have like like so many books around, but then you look at any of them and like you can't, there's no trace of use. Like even in like Sara Ahmed's sense of like, in her book, What's the Use? Sara Ahmed has been a big thing for me in my poetry practice over the past so many years. And this particular poem started out as a poetry film. It was Advait Singh who commissioned it and put me on to this concept of queer negativity. And it was also at a time when I was interested in like ontology, in the sense of like Derrida playing with ontology, but also Mark Fisher. Like I listened to ACFM almost religiously. But anyway, without too much prefacing, finally this poem is now on pages, and it's called The Impossibility of Leaving, the Possibility of Coming Out. Why do you have to leave? What is there for you? What are you hoping to find? I must leave. I can no longer say, my country. I am hoping to find home in an elsewhere. Here, I am weighed down by a toxic ecology. It is within and all around me. It is in the ocean that surrounds me. 25 tons of nitric acid, 348 tons of oil, and 75 billion small plastic pellets, or nurdles. They wash up onto the shore like garlands onto a shrine, speckling golden sands with indigestible whiteness. The plastic of a colonized tongue, the spectre of a burning ship. Did the vessels that carried our colonizers appear as flaming effigies of our future? Did plumes of smoke foreshadow the forced migratory patterns of asylum seekers? How many bodies do vessels carry at this very moment across the oceans, hoping for a better environment? In the midst of civil war, genocide, pandemic, economic collapse, climate crisis, what could we possibly hope for? Jean said the spirits of the departed lurked in graveyards and desolate places. Pereteas. Today I see them lurking in Parliament as a revolution calls for system change. All we seem to recycle are corrupt politicians. Pereteas. In Buddhist myth, one is reborn as a hungry ghost, because during one's human life, one desired too much. Pereteas. How to desire in a world where we must compete against each other to survive, where we must restate again and again our right to live, to love, to rest, to care for and be cared for. A homing desire, a desire for home. Avtar said a nostalgic relation to both the past and home might become part of the lived reality of the present. I have made a home of desire, and I dwell within it, hoping this flotsam will find its own pattern of migration, to wash upon some shore that will say, make yourself at home.
Wow.
So that's just the first sort of half of the poem.
Okay.
And then the book also has some stills from the poetry film. So if you want to see the poetry film, you have to program it.
We'll keep that in mind. Noted.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your work and that poem. And Yeah, you were saying something.
No, I was just remembering through the conversation that the sense of like, you know, again, coming back to this decoloniality practice, right? Land acknowledgements
Yes.
as a practice, not so much here. I've heard some say that, like, oh, but that's what Western decolonialists do. And, like, isn't it, would we then be doing like a Western thing, you know? And that's generally an attitude that people have with a lot of things, even outside of like what we might imagine is falling under it. But yeah, I found myself feeling like, oh, but then this conversation itself is kind of grappling and not like trying to, I don't know if you can really untangle these things, you know?
Yeah.
There's so many like earnest, sincere land acknowledgement on any part of this island would have to, it would have so many commas, you know? There's this beautiful Niki Katura, this Palestinian poet. He has a line where Kama, to paraphrase, Kama is 1,000 eulogies are exported to a Kama, to a Kama. And yeah, I feel like I'm really grateful that we met in a session and conference around those themes, because I feel like I'm also happy to be an early guest on this podcast. Thank you for
Thank you for your time and for sharing.
Yeah.
I think this was a very interesting conversation, and will be for a lot of people who I think really don't think a lot about a relationship with our neighboring countries in India. And so yeah, and I'm also like deeply fascinated by your work. We didn't get much time to get into your music and your own DJing, but I think we'll do another episode on just that, on your Kannur project, because that is also deeply fascinating to me. But yeah, I think this was generally also because of my interest in community building and what you have been, doing in Sri Lanka and with the packet and Kacha Kacha. And I think that I think it's really important to kind of, figure out and ask for the community that you really want. Thank you. We are the Artist Society podcast by the Artist Society Collective. Find us on Instagram to hear about the next episode. We are called the Artist Society Collective.